God is good.
All the time.
All the time. So we've been on a journey. We've been using this book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, a new paradigm for sustainable success. And the reason I'm using this book is because the commitments in here are not are for leadership in our own lives. Yes, if you were in a company, and companies do use this book, corporations use the book to raise their leaders up. And here in a church, we want to raise leaders up, but really we want to raise our own leadership in our personal lives. And so each of these commitments has a spirit, is spiritual as well as success oriented. And so today our topic is to talk about this something that's misunderstood as a moral burden, but is actually a gateway to incredible freedom. We're talking about commitment 6, practicing integrity. You know, in our traditional world, we often think of integrity as being a good person, following a set of external rules. But in our shared walk, we want to look at it just a little differently. We see integrity as wholeness. Integrity comes from the word integer, which means a whole number. To live in integrity means to live as an undivided being, where what we feel and what we say and what we do are all dancing together in the flow and the same rhythm of spirit. When we talk about consciousness, and in this book, this little black line is, we're saying that when we're living in positive consciousness, we're above the line, and when we're in negative consciousness, we're below the line. And so when we're above the line, we are open, curious, committed to learning. And our affirmation about integrity is, I commit to the masterful practice of integrity, including acknowledging authentic feelings, expressing the unarguable truth, keeping my agreements, and taking 100% responsibility. Now, all of us drift down below the line at times. And when we're below the line, we become closed and defensive. And we know we're right. Our behaviors change, and we might find ourselves saying, I commit to living in incompletion by withholding my truth, denying my feelings, not keeping my agreements, and not taking 100% responsibility. Now, neither of these states, above the line or below the line, is good or bad. It's just that you're happier, you're open, you're curious. Your life is better when you're operating above the line. And so even when we drift down, we always want to try to move back above the line. Most people think integrity is a moral issue, but I want you to think of integrity as an energy issue. I meant to bring my phone up here and show you my phone. How many of you have ever had your battery run down before you thought it should, and you look and you have 95 apps open, and you have stuff going on in the background? You know, Waze is keeping track of where you are. Google wants to know where you are, and it's all going on all the time. And that drains your battery. So think of your life like that smartphone. You have all of these incredible apps inside. You have your creativity, your relationships, your health, your career. But if you have 20 energy leaks running in the background, unspoken truths, broken promises, unacknowledged feelings, your battery is going to drain, and you're going to start feeling exhausted, sluggish, and disconnected with the flow of life. And so when you find yourself feeling drained, feeling exhausted, feeling sluggish, feeling disconnected, I'm going to invite you to think about today's talk. Think about that handout I gave you. And think that, where are my energy leaks? Congruence is when our inner and our outer match. When we're incongruent, we create a split in our consciousness. When we say yes, and our whole body is screaming no. Have any of you ever done that? There's not one of us who haven't done that at some point in time. When someone says, "How are you?" and you say, "I'm fine," and you're grieving or you're lonely or you're hurt or something, that's a split. And that split takes incredible energy, an immense amount of spiritual energy for you to maintain. And our master teacher Jesus expressed this in Matthew beautifully. He said, "Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one." Now, in a metaphysical sense, the evil one is not the red creature with a pitchfork. That represents the adversary that is in our own mind, our divided mind, the state of duality and separation. When we say yes but mean no, we create a separation from our true self. We move out of alignment with our divine mind, which our divine mind is always simple, direct, and whole. Imagine that you're trying to fill a bucket with the water of abundance, but the bucket has 4 or 5 small holes in the bottom. And so the more you pour in, the more that falls out. And your bucket never gets full, no matter how much water Spirit pours in. The bucket never stays full. Those holes are the incompletions in our lives. The email that you haven't returned. "I'm sorry, Nancy, I have lots of incompletions." The apology you're holding back. The unforgiveness that you are holding. The boundary that you haven't set in your life. Practicing integrity is not about being perfect. It's about plugging those holes so that you can finally hold the fullness of life. To help us stay above the line, we're going to look at integrity through 4 specific pillars or ideas. And they're practical ideas that can help us to use every day to ensure that we are in the flow. Number 1 is the cornerstone. We take 100% responsibility. We take 100% responsibility, meaning that we stop looking out there for somebody else to blame. We realize that while we cannot control all of the outer events in our lives, we have absolute control of how we respond. The internal events. We are the creators of our experience of those events. We move we take 100% responsibility, we move from being a victim of circumstances to being a co-creator with Spirit. The second tool is acknowledging authentic feelings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that experience includes emotions. Often we repress our feelings because we think they aren't spiritual, or because we were taught to as a child. But tucked away inside of those feelings is some vital information. Integrity means being honest about our feelings. It's when we can say to ourselves, I feel scared. I feel lonely. I feel angry. I feel hurt. And once we acknowledge the feeling, the energy of that feeling can move through us and we can learn what we need to know from that feeling. The third pillar that we're looking at is expressing our unarguable truth. An unarguable truth is something that is true for you that no one else can debate. So, you and I have an interaction, and in that interaction, you do something that makes me hurt. If I say you are being mean, that's an arguable truth. It's an opinion. But if I say, that made me feel a tightness in my chest and I'm feeling hurt, that's inarguable. That is my experience. And when I speak my unarguable truth, I can clear the air and I can invite others into a space of openness. Our fourth pillar is to keep agreements. That's the most visible part of integrity, is keeping our agreements. Our agreements are clear when we will do what, by whom, by when. And when we break an agreement in our life, we create clutter in our consciousness. We create a hole in that bucket. We create separation in our mind. Think of a broken agreement like a dirty dish left in the sink. You know, one dirty dish is not too bad. But if you keep leaving dirty dishes in that sink, eventually the sink will become full. And then the countertop will become full. And then you won't be able to cook a meal. Cleaning up a broken agreement looks like this. First thing we have to do is acknowledge it. I was supposed to have that report done by Friday, and I didn't do it. We clean it up. What can I do to make that right? We renegotiate. I can have it to you by Tuesday at noon. Does that work for you? And if we're really good, we have an agreement to do something by Friday, and on Thursday we know we are not going to do it. We can call and renegotiate right then. I know I'm supposed to have this by tomorrow, but it isn't happening. I can either do it in a part way, or I can do it fully and have it to you by Tuesday. What would work for you? That renegotiating is a spiritual act that shows that you value your word and the person you made the agreement with. It keeps the energy moving. That's in a business situation. But think of the agreements that we make I'll call when I get there. Or, I promise to be faithful. All of the agreements that we make in life. When we practice these pillars, when we begin to experience alignment, we're no longer fighting against ourselves. We no longer have that adversary in our mind. We become a clear channel for the divine to work through us. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was a New Thought pioneer, said, "Truth is that which is. It is the reality of things. To know the truth is to be in harmony with the infinite." When we are in integrity, we are in harmony with the infinite. We are in harmony with the reality of things. We're not pretending anything. We're not hiding. We're standing in the light. I don't know how many of you remember the movie Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey. His character in that movie, he was a lawyer and he lied. He built his life on deception. He just lied about everything so he looked so good. But suddenly, he finds that he's incapable of lying for 24 hours. At first, it's a disaster. His constructed life falls apart. By the end, he discovers something profound. His relationships have become real. He finally connects with his son. And he finds a peace he has never had when he was managing his image. Integrity is not a destination. It's a practice. It's a moment by moment choice to stay above the line. Imagine a week where you didn't have to remember which lie you told whom. Imagine the week that you didn't feel the heaviness of dozens of unfinished tasks or unsaid words. How much more love could you give? How much more joy could you feel? How much more creative power would you have at your disposal? That is the abundant life that we are promised. It isn't. This abundant life is not found in collecting more stuff. It's found in becoming more whole. As you go out this week, I invite you to notice your leaks. Where are you withholding truth? Where are you letting a dirty dish sit in the sink in your agreements? Don't judge yourself. Just notice, breathe, and choose to make it right. You have the power to clean up any incompletion. You have the strength to speak your truth in love. You are a divine being, and you deserve the peace that comes with a whole heart. The commitment for this lesson is I commit to the masterful practice of integrity, including acknowledging all authentic feelings, expressing the unarguable truth, keeping my agreements, and taking 100% responsibility. So let's transition into a time of meditation so that we can anchor this commitment into our bodies and into our lives.